So we're right to get started now after all the panic of technical issues and daylight saving time and all that. You'd think we'd be fairly well organised with times, as we're both all on the same side of the globe this time, but daylight saving has thrown us out a little bit. So, yes, just to introduce myself, I'm Jennifer Jones from Tracking Down the Family, and I'd like to welcome you to Speaker's Corner. This will be recorded for anyone who comes in a bit late. So we have hello to Anne and Barbara, and I may have missed some other names coming through, but I'll be keeping a bit of an eagle eye out from now on, now the panic's over. Here's Diane, the FH Bowerbird. Diane, another Aussie friend joining us. So how are you, Diane? I hope you've had a good Easter weekend. So here in Australia, it's Monday morning, and we're almost done with the holiday weekend. So Easter is a busy time in our city for us. We have the Bendigo Easter Fair, and it's huge. People come from all over Australia for it. So it's a very, very busy weekend. So I guess people will be packing up, ready to head off now. So, and I know Easter's a busy time for everyone with family, so I'm very appreciative of anyone who takes time out from their family to come along. So, yes, here we are for our April Speaker's Corner already. And this is for anyone who hasn't been to Speaker's Corner before, this is where we have two guests come along and they will tell us a story to a theme from their family history, or from perhaps it may be just history, a historical story, or a story about place. So today for our preview, we have Jane Chapman from New Zealand and Lex Knowlton from Australia. They have just both joined me to give us a sneaky little look at their stories that they'll be telling later in the week. So welcome to you both. It's so great to have you both here.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. I'm really looking forward to hearing your stories. They just sound so interesting. I've had a little peek at Jane's a little while ago when she had posts on her One Place Study publication. So, but that was a while ago, and I don't even remember much about it. So I'm looking forward to catching up with that. So the theme this time is stories from Down Under. So that's what we have for you today. So it really is a treat to have two great storytellers today, and from Australia for a change. We don't get to have that many Aussie storytellers during the year, or New Zealand storytellers, Jane. So yes, so
we're basically Australians.
Yeah, exactly. I consider we're all Australians, aren't we? Or perhaps we're all New Zealand.
I'm just kidding.
I can see that friendly Aussie-New Zealand rivalry coming out here.
Exactly. So you will know Jane from her BJNL's genealogy as a wonderful family history writer, and also from her One Place Study, Kyburn Diggings. And today her story is from that One Place Study. It's about a tragedy that occurred at Kyburn Diggings. But I'll leave it to you, Jane. Over to you. We're looking forward to hearing about what you have planned for us later in the week.
Okay. Well, the Kyburn Diggings was a coal mining area in Central Otago, New Zealand. And Central Otago, for anyone who doesn't know, is at the bottom of New Zealand's South Island. We're very imaginative in this country. We have two main islands. One's a North Island and one's a South Island. They do have quite nice Maori names as well, but generally they're referred to as the North Island and the South Island. I live at the bottom of the North Island, and the Kyburn Diggings are down towards the bottom of the South Island in Central Otago. So I'll save the actual story to later in the week, because I want you all to come back later in the week. Exactly. But today I thought I'd just sort of set the scene and tell you about the location of the story and briefly about the 4 young people who died in July 1891 on Mount Nobler. Now, Mount Nobler is in the Kakanui mountain range. The mountain stands at 1,550 feet metres, which is about 5,085 feet. Not a large mountain by New Zealand standards, but nonetheless bad news and bad weather, which is another feature of the story. The weather looms large in my story.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Carla. Say a quick hello to Carla. Good to see you.
Oh, hi, Carla.
Yeah.
As far as I've been able to work out using Google Earth, the distance between the Upper Khyben, where the characters who died lived, and Mount Nobla is about 7.2 kilometres. That's about 4.5 miles, which doesn't seem far, but the terrain was difficult, especially in bad weather and snowy conditions. The youngest of our main characters is Thomas Bolger Meikle. Thomas was born at the Khyben diggings and was 12 years old when he died on Mount Nobla. When he wasn't in school, which seems to have not been very often, he worked with his brother James to supplement the family income rabbiting. His brother James was a rabbiter. That's how he earned his living. And he was 19 years old when he died on Mount Nobla, and he died trying to rescue his younger brother Thomas. Thomas and James's parents were immigrants. They'd settled in the Upper Khyben. I'm not sure where they were from. I think that his mother may have been Irish. Her name was Bolger, which is where Thomas got his middle name from, although it was spelt with a U.
Yeah.
Others who died as a consequence of trying to save Thomas are Alfonso Philip Beer. He was 28 when he died, and Robert Blanchard, who is 23. Now, Alfonso was born at the Khyben diggings and worked as a gold miner. The Khyben diggings was an area made up of about three main settlements: the Upper Khyben, where these people were from, at the head of the valley; the Middle Khyben, also along the Khyben River, and the Little Khyben, which is along the Little Khyben River that goes off the Khyben River. And they were just very small settlements where people mainly mined for gold, unless they were in some sort of service industry, like there were a lot of hotels. You had to have your hotels for your gold miners. And Alfonso worked as a gold miner and was 28, as I said. His parents were immigrants from England. His father was from Kent, his mother from Cornwall, and they met and married in Cornwall before emigrating from the UK to New Zealand. Robert Blanchard, the other one, worked also as a gold miner. He too was born at the Khyben diggings. His parents were from England. His father was from London. I'm not sure where his mother was from. So all the people that died were actually born in the Khyben, but their parents were all immigrants. Yeah. Another place that features in the story is Naseby. Naseby is about 16 kilometres, which is, I think, around 10 miles from the Khyben diggings, in a different direction than Mount Nobla, and that was the closest place where you could find policemen, hospital, doctors, that sort of thing. It was still a very small settlement, but bigger than the Khyben diggings in terms of people and facilities. You'll also hear mention of Macready's station, a large high country sheep station owned by David and Jane Macready, and it was it sort of sits between the Khyben diggings and Mount Nobla, and it was Thomas and James had permission to rabbit there and also to cross the land, and in fact they had a hut on the property where they stayed when they went rabbiting. So that sort of sets the scene of what was there. Now, the story itself, in which all these people died, relates to 4 of them trying to rescue Thomas. The weather was atrocious, and in the end, it involves a lot of snow and an avalanche. And I'll leave the rest perhaps till later so that you can see what actually happens. But that sort of tells you the main ingredients of the story, I suppose.
And that's all we need. Just come back later in the week and we'll hear all the other bits and pieces that fill in the gaps. That was just perfect scene setting, Jane. So looking forward to hearing about what happened on Mount Nobla. So we also have our Aussie friend here, Lex Knowlton. So Lex is a another great family history writer, and she has written some wonderful family stories on her publication, and also writes, I suppose you'd say, hints and tips and research, ways to go about your research. And I have to say, it makes me really happy to see someone so young involved and enthusiastic about genealogy. And
Thank you.
I can't help thinking that when you get to our age, you're just going to be an absolute expert in the field. So
Something I've thought about sometimes is how could you encourage younger, could I try to contact the local library in the school holidays, like a teen genealogy, to try to get more interest for some younger people to
It's actually a great
I got interested when I was 18, but I'm probably very unusual.
Yeah. I do remember when my grandchildren, I think they all do family history in school and have to find out the name of their great grandmother and things like that. And I can remember them being quite excited about that. So, maybe there's a bit of latent interest in some people there. Yeah. So I think that's a great idea. Anything we can do to pull in a few younger ones and, enthusiasm and just keep it going, because we know what happens down the track, because we're not here forever. So, yes. But anyway, that's not what we're here for today. Today we're here to hear Lex's little preview of sneak peek of her story for later in the week. So go ahead, Lex.
So I'm going to be talking about a convict who was transported to the New South Wales colony in the 1830s, but where his story obviously starts back in England, and that's where because I don't want to give away too much of the story, so I'll kind of do the background of what led up. So he was born in about 1809, and this is just when the Industrial Revolution is really starting to ramp up. And by 1815, when the Napoleonic Wars had ended, a lot of men were coming back and there was a big population boom. But during the wars, they had started using kind of these threshing machines to help out with there wasn't as many men there because they were out over fighting. But then when they came back, the people kind of running these farms were like, well, why are we going to pay 10 men when we only have to pay 2 to run these machines? And so there's now a lot of people finding themselves out of work, and work that they'd done for hundreds of years, and threshing in particular, I believe, was kind of like their winter work. And that was really important for basically keeping their families alive during the harsher winters. So there was this, he's from Andover, and there was this, not a gentleman, he was kind of a bit of an upstart named Robert Tasker, and his dad was a blacksmith. So he'd kind of learnt ironworking and that kind of stuff as a child. And he was a bit of a businessman, and he went out and he founded with his brother the Waterloo Ironworks in Andover. And he, sorry, I'm just looking through my notes here. And he basically could see that he was building these machines that were able to take over these men's jobs, and it upset a lot of the men in the area. And Isaac Mans, the man that I'll be talking about, they kind of got together, and I don't want to give too much away, but it was a riot, and they were what was known as kind of machine breaking was the charge that they got labelled with. But these riots were taking place across the UK at that time. They were called the swing riots, and they were basically displaced young men who suddenly found themselves out of work, going and breaking the machines that were taking their jobs. And I think, something to think about on top of that is that at this time, I don't think that we can understand the level of dire poverty that they would have been facing today in the developed world that we live in. These men, they wouldn't have been able to, toddle off down to the local centre and get off the dole if they lost their job. Yeah. It would have been my family's going to starve to death if I don't have work. And they did have poor law and things like that. And I actually did the poor law unit through Farrell's tutors, which was really interesting to learn about that. And so there was relief, there was poor relief, but it could be difficult to get. It wasn't always reliable. You could be taken off of it at the drop of a hat. you were also assigned to a parish when you were born. So, like, you might have been born somewhere and then your family moved to the other side of the country and that's where you have your whole life. But you all of a sudden find yourself in, down times, and the parish that you're in is like, well, we're not responsible for you. You were born in that parish. They're the ones that are responsible for you. So it's like, okay, uproot my whole life and move to the other side. So yeah, it wasn't very a very nice time if you found yourself in that situation. So that's why a lot of these young men and young women too, there were a lot of most convicts were sent because of theft related crimes, because they were very, very desperate. But yeah, that's kind of the background. And Andover as well was particularly bad, like their workhouse. I know there was like the Andover workhouse scandal in the 1840s. And we looked at that in that poor law unit that I did. So they were a particularly rough place where he was from. So
yeah.
And there was a little bit about I wrote it down somewhere where then they were here we are. In the 1830s, around Andover, the bread allowance for the poor law per man was half of what they were entitled to in 1795. So
wow,
yeah, it was really a very, very rough time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want to go too much more in depth to what happened. But and yeah, we will get to Australia eventually. He'll be transported. But yeah.
And you probably said at the start, I may have missed it. What year was this?
He was transported in 18. It was the 1830s. I know that.
Right. Yeah.
Where is it? And he was actually sent with his brother, him and his older brother. There was quite a few of them who were. The only one who was executed was the ringleader. He was hung.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, 1831, he arrived in Australia.
Right. Yeah.
But the rest of them, there's about 15, 20 of them. The rest of them they were sentenced to death, and then this was very common. They would sentence you to death, and then immediately it was commuted to transportation for either 7, 14 years or life.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And just imagine like a married person.
Mm-hmm. And his brother was married. His brother, Isaac wasn't. He was not. He's only 19, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's a boy. Yeah. Like I'm 32, and I'm like, that's like not even a man. That's still a boy,
Exactly.
And he was just taken from his family and shipped to the other side of the world, and very harsh. Imagine going from cold, rainy Andover to like blistering sun.
Yeah.
It would have been very difficult.
But yeah.
I had one transported in the 1830s as well, who left behind a family, and he was a bit older, but he left behind some very young children.
Yeah.
Which I have actually written about in my Substack blog.
Yeah. So, you do wonder about that. I mean, it's unimaginable, isn't it? You're dragged away from your family, and you're not going to pop back for a visit.
No, it was
when you're 7 years
sentenced them. Yeah, they used to sentence them to like 7 or 14 years, but everyone knew you were basically going for life. There was no return ticket.
No. And there are some cases where the families got to come out here.
One of my other convict ancestors, he left behind a wife and 4 children. And she had to work for a year as a charwoman, and then they had like a scheme where, like, if the convict was well behaved, they would allow the wife and children to come out.
Yeah.
And so his wife and the 4 kids came on a female convict ship and came out and joined.
Right. Yep. And they probably went on to have an absolutely fabulous life.
Yeah. They got land and everything. Yeah.
So can you tell me, where's Andover?
It's in the north. It's Hampshire.
Okay. Yeah.
At the bottom of the UK, down the bottom. Where's Southampton?
Right. Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Yep.
Look, there's my English geography not doing very well.
No, I'm only know there's the places that my family came from or were involved with that, I have a vague idea of where they are. But, as far as the rest of England, I don't really know that much.
It's in between Bristol and London, kind of like.
Oh, okay. So, Yeah. And thinking about the workhouses, I don't think I have. Well, I know so far that I've found I don't have anyone in England in a workhouse, but I've had them in Ireland, and they're brutal places, aren't they?
Yeah.
They really are. Yeah.
Well, they were designed to be. They were designed for you to only go there if you were desperate.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Jane, can I ask you about your one study? Because I thought it was closer to where you lived,
No.
So it's quite a distance.
Yeah.
How, as a person who's studying a one-place study from mine's a long distance, but it's the same thing. How does that affect, the work you do?
Well, it does. The reason I picked it actually was because one of my husband's second great grandfathers lived there for a short while, and his great grandmother as well. She was born there and grew up there, and I got quite interested in the place because, particularly during that period, early 1860s, through when the gold rush was on and all that sort of stuff. But a lot of the things a lot of the files I want are in the National Archives, which is really good. Sometimes they're in the Dunedin repository, so I have to wait until I get down there. Some of them are digitised, some of them aren't. So sometimes I have, like last time we went south, for example, we went to the Dunedin and I went into the, with the list, into the archives. But a lot of them they're already digitised, or I can get in Wellington. Some of them. I don't know if you remember the series I did about the murder of Mary.
Yes.
What's her name? I've forgotten her name now.
I don't know. I remember it.
Yeah, all those papers, all the Justice Department papers, all those papers were in the National Archives.
Yeah.
In Wellington, and I live in Wellington, so I just go down the road, basically.
Yeah.
And the National Archives is really good because if it's not if it's digitised, you just use it under Creative Commons. If it's not digitised, you can go in and copy it, but then they just require you to get their permission to put it, and they never to put it on your blogs or whatever, and they never decline you. It's just it's just a process. Just a process. So a lot of the records I need, I can get, and we've always been in the habit of going south once a year anyway. And we always go to the Chapman diggings. Not that there's anything there anymore. No. The cemetery's there. The hotel is there, but there's very few people. I think about 6 people live there on farming.
Yeah.
It's a very, very much a wilderness area. I mean, there are no trees there, for example. It's just tussock land. And it's on the Maniatoto Plain, which is quite high up. I don't know on average how high, probably about 400 metres or something. It's a plain that's high up anyway.
Yeah.
And so it's very cold in winter and very warm in summer. Right. And I mean, these days it's just a wilderness, basically. There's nothing much there. There are, actually, I haven't been recently to the Naseby Museum, but I believe that there are some records there as well, especially cemetery records.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's great that we can get them online these days, isn't it?
but I mean, it is a long way away, but as I said, we go down regularly. Yeah. Anyway. I don't know how much longer we'll be going south. The older you get, the less far you want to travel.
That's right. So, is there still signs there that it was gold diggings?
Yeah. There's all the you can see where they sluiced and so on. Yeah. All the dealing. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds similar to the gold fields that I write about at Roo. It's an area now with a cemetery, and signs. There are a lot of signs that there was gold digging. Did gold digging go on there for how long? Like just for that original gold rush, or did it continue?
They've discovered gold and it was discovered in 1861, but people didn't really know about it much till 1863, and that's when people flooded in around the Chapman and Little Chapman rivers, and it became known as the Chapman diggings.
Yeah.
But it went on. It sort of developed, and then there was dredging, and as well as they started out with their pickaxes and
Yes.
tail
Yeah.
races and things, but it sort of developed a bit. But then I think it pretty much dried up. So there's nothing going on there. I can't remember exactly when
No.
they
Yeah.
stopped. They
Yeah.
also got coal there. They were part of the area there was coal, which was very important, especially when they were dredging, because there were no trees to cut down. You had to have fuel of some sort.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah, no, I asked because the Roo area that in my Goldfields publication, they were you think of the gold rush being, for us, the 1850s, but they mined there until I was really surprised to find out until about the 1950s. So the bigger companies with their big equipment and
Yeah.
so there's
Yeah,
still
no.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've sort of framed my one place study at the moment, sort of 1861 through to about 1900s.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But, give or take, I might extend it one end or the other, depending what I find. But it was really those early gold mining days that I was interested in, and the people that flooded in, and they were all immigrants and, wanting to make their fortune and didn't.
Yeah, and they did.
I saw something somebody had written. I think it was the granddaughter of my husband's second great grandfather, and she had written that he was a man that was always chasing rainbows. And I think to have gone there when he went there in early 1860s, he was definitely chasing rainbows.
Yeah. So many of them were, weren't they? I can't see that. Can either of you see that comment?
Yes, can. I don't. I was going to put a post after I spoke about Isaac Mann's, because I don't want to spoil anything, Barbara, to answer your question.
Yeah.
I will put a post up afterwards if people want a bit more detail and to look at some of the sources and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, no, I really look forward to that. And there's so many questions I could ask you, both of you, but I'm not going to. I'm going to save it because you may even answer them in, when you tell us the full story of your stories. So, I'm really looking forward to having those little gaps filled in and, just hearing. Because even though, like, I've read Jane's story, and this is what's great about Speaker's Corner, we love family stories and we love writing them and we love reading them, and that's absolutely fabulous. But just as good are the oral stories, and they're different. So when Jane comes along and tells us about her story that she has written, I think in 3 parts or 4 parts.
3
parts. Yeah. The story she will tell will be different to that story, So, and I think that is really great. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that. And so Speaker's Corner is coming up on Thursday or Friday this week, depending on where you are in the world. So Barbara will just pop a link in there in the notes and details to register. And it is a free event, but you do need to register to get your Zoom link. So don't forget to do that. Yeah. And for Jane and Lex and me, because I always forget to register for my own event until the very last minute. So we do need that Zoom link so you can get in. So don't forget to do that. And we look forward to seeing you there. But I'll also say, just as a quick pointer, coming up this week, we have Mission Genealogy. And I love mission genealogy, and that's probably why I'm doing a pointer towards it. So that's Tuesday, Wednesday, once again, depending where you are, and at two time zones to fit in with, us on both sides of the world. So mission genealogy is really, it's great. It's a spot where you can come along. It's not recorded, and chat with like-minded people, and depending where that chat goes is what we talk about for the day. And I always find I end up learning something in relation to family history or how to research this or that, or Substack, something I didn't know or I didn't know how to do, So, so we'd love to see you all there. So that's coming up this week too. And then Speaker's Corner later in the week. So yes, do check your calendar for those events. And once again, I would like to, we're just about there, I think. So I'd like to thank Jane and Lex for coming along today and, taking time out from their busy family weekend, and for just setting the scene for us and giving us little cliffhangers that we can come along and, hope listen to later in the week. So thank you to both of you. I do appreciate you doing that. And also for everyone who has come along today. As I said, it's a busy weekend for us all this weekend. So, I'm very appreciative of everyone taking the time out. And I know it's not easy when we have family around to do that. Yeah. As great as it is to have family around, it's wonderful. Yes. So much love and appreciation to you all. And I will see you on Speaker's Corner on later in the week. So check the calendar and for your time zones. So thank you very much.
Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.